On October 10, 2025, a massive explosion shook rural Tennessee. A very loud roar broke the early morning quiet. This powerful blast happened at Accurate Energetic Systems, a factory that made military explosives. The sound was incredibly strong. People living more than 20 miles away felt their houses shake from the force. For many in the community, it was a terrifying and confusing moment, like a small earthquake or a huge thunderclap right outside their windows. The explosion happened around 7:48 a.m. News quickly spread about the disaster. There were 19 workers inside the destroyed building. Sadly, these 19 people were missing and feared dead. Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis described the scene as the most devastating he had ever experienced in his career. The community was in shock, worried about their neighbors and friends. This terrible event was not new for the factory. In 2014, another deadly explosion happened at the same place. One worker lost their life in that incident. That past disaster had raised questions about safety. Now, with a second major explosion, those questions have become much louder and more urgent. It feels like a sad history is repeating itself at this important factory. 2. The Big Bang. The explosion happened on October 10, 2025, at exactly 7:48 in the morning, Central Daylight Time. It created a huge shockwave from the Accurate Energetic Systems factory in Tennessee. 19 workers were missing after the blast, and people feared they were dead. Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis later described it as the most devastating scene he had ever seen in his job. The blast was incredibly strong. People heard and felt its force more than 20 miles away from the factory. Home security cameras recorded the loud boom and showed buildings shaking from the shock wave. Residents in Low Belleville, a town a full 20-minute drive away, reported their homes trembling. Gentry Stover, who lived very close by, described the terrifying moment. "I thought the house had collapsed with me inside of it." He quickly understood the disaster. One of the factory's 8 buildings on the vast 1,300-acre campus was completely destroyed. Sheriff Davis said, "There was nothing to describe. It's gone." Aerial views showed widespread devastation. Twisted metal, burned vehicle shells, and debris scattered across a half-mile area. Thick, black smoke billowed high into the Tennessee sky. The Weather Service radar even detected the smoke plume. When the first emergency teams arrived, they faced an immediate and dangerous challenge. Secondary explosions continued for many hours after the initial blast. This constant danger forced rescue teams to keep a safe distance, making it impossible to search for the 19 people trapped beneath the rubble. The Tennessee Emergency Management Agency quickly raised its emergency status to Level 4. They sent over 300 emergency personnel to help. Soon after, federal groups, including the FBI, ATF, and Department of Homeland Security, also joined the important investigation. 3. The factory. Accurate Energetic Systems is a very important factory in Tennessee. It started its work in 1980. This company makes special materials that armies need for defense. Many people call it a merchant of necessities because its products are critical for national security. The factory is very large, covering about 1,300 acres. It has 8 main buildings where explosives are produced, along with a laboratory for checking quality. There are also extensive areas for safely testing the explosive products. The factory makes many kinds of military explosives. For example, it produces trinitrotoluene, which is commonly known as TNT. TNT is a very powerful explosive used by armies all over the world. It also makes C4, a type of plastic explosive that is flexible. Other important products include claymore mines and linear-shaped charges, which are used for special military tasks. These items are important for defense, aerospace, and also for commercial building demolition. Accurate Energetic Systems works very closely with the United States government. It serves as a key supplier and contractor for the U.S. Army and Navy. The company holds many valuable contracts to produce explosives for the country's defense needs. One major contract, worth up to $100 million, is for the production of TNT and plastic bonded explosive N9. The factory's products are also approved for use by foreign military forces, law enforcement groups, and other commercial clients globally. This factory has a critical, though often unseen, role in America's defense. It is a vital part of the nation's ability to protect itself. Without the specific energetic products made here, the U.S. military would not have many of the tools it needs. Its work ensures that America's defense infrastructure remains strong and ready. The factory tests explosives daily, sometimes handling up to 35 pounds of explosive weight. This shows how dangerous and important its work is. 4. A sad history. The recent explosion was not the first sad event at the Accurate Energetic Systems site. Many years before, on December 16, 2014, there was another deadly blast. This first explosion happened at a company called Rio Ammunition, which also worked on the same land. In that earlier incident, a young worker named Rodney Edwards, who was just 24 years old, lost his life. 3 other people were also hurt. Around 20 workers were present when the blast happened during cartridge loading. Just like in 2025, that building was almost completely destroyed. The scene looked very similar to what people saw later. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or ATF, looked into the 2014 explosion. They said it was an accident. But the exact reason for the blast was never made public. The Tennessee Occupational Safety and Health Administration, known as TOSHA, was also supposed to investigate. They needed to check for safety problems. However, it is not clear if their investigation finished or if they ever shared a report. This lack of clear information made people wonder about safety checks at places that handle dangerous materials. Now, with two deadly explosions at the same place in about 11 years, many people are asking difficult questions. Is it just bad luck? Or are there deeper safety problems that were not fixed? It feels like the same sad story is happening again. This makes many people worry about how safe the workers really are. 5. The lost people. The massive explosion left 19 people missing from the factory. Everyone feared they were dead. This created deep sadness and uncertainty for their families. Sheriff Chris Davis, who saw the terrible scene, called them 19 souls. He said it was the most devastating moment of his work life. This showed how much the small community felt the loss of each person. These 19 workers were not just employees. They were important family members and friends. Their loved ones faced terrible anguish. The factory was a key employer, meaning many people in the area knew the missing individuals. This made the pain spread widely through the community. To help the struggling families, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation set up a special phone line. People could call 1-800-TBI-FIND to get information about their loved ones. The factory company, Accurate Energetic Systems, also opened a center to give support to the families. However, the company's leaders did not speak to the public right away. This silence added to the family's worries and sorrow. The entire community around the factory felt the impact. State Representative Jody Barrett spoke about the possible bad economic effects as the plant provided many jobs. The loss of 19 workers meant a great blow to the local economy and the lives of many. The town came together, offering comfort to those who had lost so much. Everyone tried to support each other during this very difficult time. The lost people left a big hole in the heart of the community. 6. Looking for answers. The difficult search for answers started right away. This was one of the hardest jobs for all the people helping, like the local police and other expert teams. Sheriff Chris Davis said the investigation would take many days, maybe even weeks. He explained it needed to be slow and methodical because the factory site was so unsafe. The extreme danger meant everyone had to move with great care. Important federal teams quickly arrived to help. The FBI joined the effort. They investigate serious events and make sure no bad acts happened, looking for any criminal reasons. The ATF, which is another federal agency, brought its special national response team. This team knows a lot about explosives and how they work, with experts in science and engineering. These groups had special skills and tools to look at the destroyed area. Their help showed how serious the explosion was, not just for the local town, but for the whole country's safety and defense. Searching the damaged place was full of challenges. The explosion had completely destroyed one of the 8 buildings at the factory. Sheriff Davis said there was nothing to describe. It's gone. This meant many important clues were gone or buried deep in the rubble. Also, for hours after the big blast, smaller explosions kept happening. This made the area too dangerous for rescue teams to enter safely at first, slowing down the vital search. The site was also contaminated with explosive materials, making careful handling necessary. The ground was covered with many pieces of twisted metal and debris. Among the wreckage, investigators saw many small, neon green canisters. These were parts of TNT booster charges, which the factory made. These small containers gave important clues about what kind of materials were involved in the blast. Investigators had to look very carefully, using special methods to collect every small piece of evidence without causing more danger. They hoped to find out exactly what caused the explosion and if different explosive materials reacted with each other. It was a long and dangerous process, but finding the truth was important for the families of the 19 missing people. They needed to understand how such a terrible event could happen at Accurate Energetic Systems. 7. A bigger problem. The explosion at the factory made many people think about safety. Accurate Energetic Systems had government safety rules to follow. OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, creates rules for dangerous workplaces. For explosive factories, OSHA demands very strong safety plans, no matter the amount of material. This means checking machines, having clear work steps, and training workers well. But Accurate Energetic Systems had safety problems before this big blast. Since 2019, OSHA found 3 issues at the plant. These were smaller problems, for example, about cleanliness or telling workers about dangers. The company paid small fines, between $2,000 and $7,000. They even argued against some of these. For some, these documented problems suggested that bigger safety issues might have been missed. This factory was very important for the United States military. It made special explosives like TNT. America stopped making TNT at home in the 1980s because it was bad for the environment. So, the U.S. bought TNT from other countries like China, Russia, Poland, and Ukraine. Now there is a war in Ukraine. This conflict changed the global supply of TNT. Russia and China stopped selling TNT to the U.S. Poland, the main supplier for the Pentagon, sent its TNT to help Ukraine. As a result, the U.S. has a serious shortage of TNT. The price went up very steeply, almost 90 times higher for government customers. The government is working to solve this. They announced plans for a new TNT production facility in Kentucky, expected to start in 2028. However, this facility will only make TNT for military purposes. Other U.S. businesses, like mining companies, will still depend on scarce and expensive foreign supplies. This made Accurate Energetic Systems even more critical. It was one of the few places left in the U.S. that produced these vital explosives. The factory had large contracts with the U.S. Army and Navy. So the explosion did not just tragically claim lives, it also worsened the national shortage of TNT, impacting the military supply chain. This highlights a bigger problem. The country needs these dangerous materials for its defense, but making them must always be safe for the workers. Finding the right balance between producing necessary weapons and keeping workers safe is a complex and urgent challenge. This accident has made that balance even more difficult. 8. The end of the story. The explosion on October 10, 2025, at Accurate Energetic Systems was a terrible event. The powerful blast in rural Tennessee destroyed a factory building and left 19 workers missing. For many, the loud sound and shaking ground were deeply shocking. This disaster brought great sadness to the families and the whole community. People felt a shared pain, wondering why such a thing could happen and how so many could be lost so quickly. Sadly, this was the second deadly accident at this same place. In 2014, another explosion killed a worker. Having two major disasters in a short period brings up hard questions about safety. The factory makes important explosives like TNT for the U.S. military. This work is vital for national defense, but it is also very dangerous. The balance between making weapons and keeping people safe seems to have failed here. The 19 missing workers were real people. They had families, friends, and futures. Their lives were lost in the service of national security. This is the heavy human cost of such important yet risky work. Even with many government rules and inspections, the system did not prevent this loss. This points to deeper problems that need fixing. It wasn't just one small mistake, but perhaps many small problems together in the system. To truly honor the memories of those who died, serious changes are needed. Safety rules must be made stronger and followed without fail. Companies that handle dangerous materials must take full responsibility for their workers' lives. The government needs to make sure that these vital but risky factories are always the safest places possible. We must learn from this tragic story. It is important to make sure that no other family has to face such sorrow again. Every person who goes to work deserves to return home safely. What important lessons do you think we can learn from this disaster to make dangerous workplaces safer for everyone?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.